Ahoyhoy gang, if this is your first time with us, welcome. If you're joining us from our previous video, hey, we love to see it, and I hope you're doing well. Tinker hell, you've summoned me. Here I am with the conclusion of my top 5 episodes of King of the Hill by season. Dropping this for no reason. Definitely not a new season of King of the Hill out or anything. So to get you hyped up, because this list is significantly better than whatever the essential viewing Hulu list is, give these episodes a watch. Who knows, maybe you'll rage at each of my selections and let me know in the comments below. Thank you all so much for watching, and enjoy. Season 1! Number 5, Luann Saga. I love Luann Saga for a lot of reasons. I know people are going to be upset. I'm just going to tell you now, Keeping Up with Our Joneses is not on the list. More so out of I don't want to show a bunch of, Bobby smoking on the channel. It's still an honorable mention. But I think Luann Saga even then would have inched it out. Not only is it a great starter Luann episode, it's a fantastic first real example of Boomhauer as a character, and it really elevates what King of the Hill is going to be. It's willing to branch out and have stories focused on these characters. And I love the fact that Boomhauer's just like, yeah, dang old no, man. Dang old no. And like everybody else can't understand Boomhauer, but the audience very obviously can. And it's so charming in a way. It's so simple and elegant, and I love that Hank has that change of heart that at least feels natural for him. It never feels like it's really all that forced on him. How many times is he really using that den? Let's be honest. Also just shows us great Buckley is awful bits, and I adore that. Like, I don't know. It's a good episode. It's got fantastic jokes. It's great to see how already evolved the characters are. 7 episodes into the show? Not even. I think this is episode 5. Like, it's wild to me how full of potential King of the Hill actually was. And now it's, as we got later into the seasons, it was very much more about episodic ideas. But Luann Saga was a brilliant setup for who Luann was as a character before we went deeper on her journey. It gave us a good example of Boomhauer being really the opposite of Glenn Quagmire. Yeah, he sleeps around, but he's not like a skeevy monster about it. It's a very important balancing act that I don't think we appreciate how deftly they managed it in just the first season. I don't know, Luann Saga it just hits different. The Order of the Straight Arrow. First off, I don't know what I was on when I was doing this episode, when I was reviewing it in the big, 12-hour review. I remember the crane scene. I have seen it since then. I have seen it in my review. And I don't know where I got, it spread its wings against the sun. It didn't. It absolutely did. It got up and flew off, and that's still a really cool shot. But I'm picturing this, Porco Rosso-esque, phoenix rising, flying off. It's like, wow, that's impressive that they animated it that well, 25 years ago. They didn't. I just completely misremembered it, and that's fine, I guess. But The Order of the Straight Arrow is brilliant. It's a perfect example of how early King of the Hill's jokes were very situational and conversational. You had Peggy sneaking around with her shoe quest. You had, Bobby bludgeoning a whooping crane with his whoop-ass stick. And that'll never not be funny. But we also get, just a really wholesome Hank, Bobby, and Hank and the boys story about how Hank wants Bobby to believe in him and, trust him. And it makes sense. It's just every angle you could approach this episode from, it's perfect. There is never a moment where I was watching it and bored. And I went back and I revisited most of these episodes for this, and I was still enchanted. I was still beating myself up because there's absolutely no way the crane flew off that majestically. But it was also really cool to see the social commentary of all the protesters stomping on the eggs and destroying the wetlands that they were protesting to defend. And it's not pushed one way or the other. It's just, see what hypocrites humans are? And it's like, you know what, Mike Judge? That is so baseline. That is so vanilla. I appreciate it. I'll take that. It shined through. Season 1 of a show is not necessarily the strongest. It just so happens that King of the Hill and Bob's Burgers had really, really, really strong first seasons. Number 3, pilot. Like, okay, if we're gonna do a pilot, if you're gonna make an animated series pilot, and you don't even look at how King of the Hill did it, I guarantee you, your pilot is just gonna crash and burn. King of the Hill's pilot is arguably, to this day, after, 29 some odd years, almost 30 at this point, My Bones Creek, that pilot is still one of the best pilots of any animated series of all time. It sets up exactly who the characters are, what their motivations are, Hank's relationship to Bobby, Hank's relationship to Peggy, and it even addresses what people would initially think about Hank right in that first episode. He's always flying off the hook, his family must live in fear of him. It's like, no, he'd never hit either of them. He loves them, he adores them, and it's that very soft telegraphing of how Hank is as a character that makes him such an approachable and likable guy. You see him getting frustrated, you see him getting heated, but you never see him, really explode or really take that out on Peggy or Bobby. And also, as far as early voices go, sure, they're very prototypical, but there's also such a charm of hearing people, experimenting with characters that have become so timeless. To hear that awkward inflection in Bobby's voice, to gaze out at, I said it in the review, I'll say it again when I was watching it, those backgrounds are gorgeous. If you're watching it on anything, just watch the pilot, pause, and appreciate that you can actually see the watercolor strokes in the background. I know that sounds dumb. I know that sounds like the most Bob Ross thing imaginable, but it is a pretty pilot. It is a pretty pilot in both just genuine execution and set design. I love it. I love the pilot so much. It's still one of my favorite episodes of the entire show, and yet still not number 1 on this list, which shows how strong the season was. Peggy the Boggle Champ. What's going on down there at that Mower Expo? I gotta know what's at the Mower Expo. Peggy the Boggle Champ is a ton of fun. I always revisit it. It is one of the 5 episodes I remember vividly. If I ever got sick and I was home from school and it was November, October, for whatever reason, you put on UPN. You watch Adult Swim starting at the ripe hour of 6 p.m. And sure enough, it's probably gonna be Peggy the Boggle Champ. It was always playing, and it was easy to see why, because it's got great jokes, its performances are incredible, and it's a great standalone episode. It has that perfect blend of realistic and fantastical that I really appreciate. And I know that sounds weird to say that an episode of King of the Hill is fantastical, but the Mower Expo is just held to this higher standard, and it's portrayed as this big convention center just filled to the brim with mowing things. And that is a thing. You can go to big conventions like that for, BEA broadcast conventions and stuff like that, where you'll see different cameras and different, film setups, and it's very cool to see. But it's also a very fantastical idea. It's a very extreme idea. And I appreciate that you have this fantastical, he's getting lost in the mower convention, you guys. And then you bring it all back with Peggy having this very personal conflict with the Boggle Champion, who's walking around like she owns the town, which, if you're that good at Boggle in, rural Southern America, you probably own your local church. It's just, it's such good down-home Americana in the most wholesome way. Again, I said in the review, but my grandmother would go to Scrabble tournaments, to Boggle tournaments, and that was what we did. Conventional internet wasn't in every home. Some people were lucky to have cable television. So, you found fun where you had it, and a lot of the times you were going to different conventions. You were, becoming the state champion at Duel Masters. My only claim to fame. But it's so fun. Peggy the Boggle Champ is a fun episode of King of the Hill, and I adore it for what it does. It's an episode I could revisit. I could watch this episode 15 times in a row and never get bored. It's just the best. Hank's got the willies. So as much as I love Peggy the Boggle Champ, I was revisiting this episode, and I think this is easily one of the best formative episodes for Hank. Not only do you see his, emotional attachments laid bare, but it's also Hank getting to spend time with his hero, Willie Nelson, who is the most, rebel country, rebel rock, whatever you want to call him. He is not someone that a traditional, propane manager would be listening to. And I love that. I love that little spark of ambition, that little dream, that little glimmer in Hank's eye that this episode gives you. This is a guy that loves music because it's a way for him to communicate with his family. He sings about how much he loves his wife, but he can barely tell her to her face he loves her. And the whole episode is Peggy thinking Hank cares more about the guitar than her. And that's great. That's a great angle to work with because it's not like, Lois, I went with Death and he told me I should be treating you better. It was a weird episode. I'm going through Family Guy right now, and it is odd. But here, her conflict is resolved without her ever saying anything to Hank because she overhears him singing about her. He's singing about his love. And the fact that in this moment, he gets to sit on a couch and play with Willie Nelson, with his beloved son by his side, his wife's next to him. He's just playing his guitar, having a good time. Dennis Hopper's over there for some reason, and it's magical. Again, it's what made King of the Hill so enchanting as a modern version of just genuine, Rockwellian Americana. And the lighting for this episode is so warm. There's so many orange hues, and it's gorgeous. Oh, I miss the shading of the earlier seasons of King of the Hill when it was mostly done, by hand or by traditional animation styles, rather than the digital one we get later on, where it becomes much more flat. There's so much more definition to work with in this episode. And the dream sequence, maybe it's just because it looks softer, it has a softer hue to it. It feels way more cerebral. It hits the eye better. It's an episode I keep coming back to and appreciating more in it the older I get. It's an episode that, as a kid, you watch it and you go, oh, well, that was fine. And as an adult, you're like, yeah, okay, I understand it now. You can turn it off. I don't need to be relating too much to Hank here. It's a wonderful episode. And it makes you appreciate the things you have in your life. Season 1, yeah, it makes me feel like a kid again going back through it. It feels super nostalgic, and I don't know. I feel all warm and fuzzy when I put on a Season 1 episode again. Simpler times when we could get excited for a mower expo, I don't know what the new one's gonna be, but I'm not ready for it. Season 2, The Unbearable Blindness of Laying. This is such an important and genuinely special episode of King of the Hill to me. A fantastic Christmas episode. It delivers on Hank growing as a person, and we get to see him, realize that his mom is human, that she needs a connection, she needs romance, and that his dad was horrible to her. I really appreciate that he comes into his own this episode, and it's just so wholesome. The whole episode is genuine wholesomeness in such a weird way. Hank goes blind seeing his mom get it on, and then through the power of Christmas magic understands the importance of family. Early King of the Hill had that very eccentric twist to it that just makes the whole thing shine that much brighter. I love that Bobby starts picking up these Jewish mannerisms and he starts incorporating it more and more into his stand-up with the "what are you talking about? What are you talking about?" And it's just Gary is so important to the family, even though he only shows up, 2 or 3 times and then is just dumped off by the end of the show. Which, I get it. Carl Reiner couldn't have been available for everything, but come on now, give him a bit more of a graceful push-off than, oh, we don't need you anymore, goodbye. It just, I come back to this Christmas episode because King of the Hill was allergic to like genuinely happy Christmas episodes for a while there, and this one just felt so genuine and nostalgic every time I came back to it. I love this episode. It's just so dang wholesome. Number 4, Hank's Dirty Laundry. Look, if there is one thing you need to know about me, it's that I love good, boring court cases and fighting the system stories and all that good stuff. I love a good underdog story. And I am obsessed with how dumb and yet understandable this episode is. Like, my mom had to deal with VHS tape rentals that were on her account that weren't supposed to be, that she never rented. Like, that's a real thing that does happen. Or did happen, rather, you know, rip Blockbuster, I guess. It's just, it reminds me of, like, it's not a simpler time, mind you. It is not a simpler event. Hank's Dirty Laundry was just this delightfully accurate satire. And I think that satire is lost on new audiences just because they didn't grow up in the rental era. These episodes were episodes they caught on rerun, not episodes that, you know, people like me caught live with their families. Like, they did not have to worry about a schedule of television. They didn't have to worry about rewinding your movie before returning it or getting charged for it. They would charge you if you did not rewind your VHS tape. Like, we have new generations that don't even know what Blu-ray is. And so much of this episode is a time capsule. And I really kind of adore it, and I wish there was a way to preserve the satire on display here. Like, The Simpsons does it on such a macro scale. Family Guy does it on such a specific scale. King of the Hill is so down to earth with it that the satire is really just, at the end of the day, hey, you know, movie rental places kind of suck though? Like, what's that? Really? And I of course, I adore that Bill is the solution to this entire thing. Like, Bill is the one that gives him the hidden knowledge to crack the code, and the code is a tattoo. It's just, it's perfect. It's just perfect. I keep coming back to this episode, and I revisited all these episodes when I started doing these top fives, and they still make me laugh. And that's not like a nostalgia thing. That's just how sharp the writing was at the time. It really shows why the show had such longevity. Number 3, Jumpin' Crack Bass. Where the last episode was very clever satire about the rental industry, you can argue that this is satire of the judicial system if you wanted to. But also consider it's just an episode where Hank accidentally fishes with crack. It's like the perfect play on a classic, like, dumb dad sitcom A story where, like, a dad and son go fishing and, whoa, he catches a catfish that's full of drugs and they have to get rid of it. Like, something just so out there and wild that if it happened in an episode of, like, the Andy Griffith Show, it would completely break that reality. I adore that Hank is just so oblivious to all of it, and him and his buddies are just fishing with crack rock, and it's great. It's just the best. And, like, James Carville is in that episode. That crypt keeper looking man who is somehow still alive, still bald as the day he was born. It's so weird to me that a political commentator like him was, well, and strategist. I mean, he was the strategist of the Clinton administration. That's not nothing. But it's so wild to hear him and then, you know, later the Texas governor in the show. Because they're not, like, playing big parodies of themselves. You know, James Carville plays a judge. That's it. That's his whole thing. He's the judge of the episode. And he's perfectly fine. Obviously, he's not a big voice actor, but it's such a wild episode from top to bottom, from the weird guest stars to what Hank is doing and then again, you have that end, just genuine Americana that you can tell this was an episode crafted by Mike Judge. This feels like a Beavis and Butthead thing where, you have them catching fish and showing all the fishing photos. And it's like, this is all because Hank was fishing with Crack Rock. And it's so dumb, extreme, stupid, genius, all in the best way. I really like it. Number 2, The Arrowhead. I in my review of the show, I was not subtle about how much I love this episode. This is some of the best comedic dialogue in the entire show. I love The Arrowhead. I think this is one of the few times that Maurice LaMarche allowed himself to actually just be so genuinely venomous. Like, every other portrayal he typically does is very, grandiose, like, it's hedonism, bod, or, windmills do not work that way, good night. I'm not even going to try and do a Maurice LaMarche. He's a one-of-a-kind vocal talent. But his delivery in this episode, it makes this episode so one-of-a-kind. You don't have conflict like this in the rest of the show. Sure, in Spanish Prisoner, Jeff Goldblum does an outstanding job. But Maurice LaMarche, I truly think this is a career best performance for him. It is such a good highlight of how Peggy just wants to be accepted by people, and she is absolutely 10,000% a teacher's pet. I adore how Hank doesn't want his wife to, focus on another guy, and he gets a little jealous. Like, it's such small elements that bring the whole episode together and shows that, like, yeah, Hank really loves Peggy. He would do anything to make Peggy, happy, to make his family happy. And even though he doesn't like the professor, he'll have him for dinner if it means, Bobby can learn something and Peggy would be happy. And and the professor is just such an ass, and I love it. It's just, it's such a good episode. The Arrowhead is definitely worth a revisit if you haven't watched it in a minute. Number 1, Snow Job. This one has just gotten better as I've gotten older. And not necessarily because the episode has aged like a fine wine, but more so it becomes more and more relatable the more you work, the more you've been passed over for a position by someone that you might argue is underqualified. I'm not saying that's ever happened to me, but maybe it has, and maybe it's happened to you, and maybe it absolutely kind of sucks. And it's like, Snow Job is so honest and earnest about it. And I didn't truly appreciate the situation they were in until I moved to the South, because I grew up in an area where there was a ton of snow everywhere in winter. And so we were used to 6, 7, 8 inches on the ground. These people, they see a dusting and society crumbles. And then you get to the South and you realize, yeah, when there's a dusting, society crumbles around here. And it is hysterical. I mean, not hysterical in like I want people to be hurt, but hysterical in like a lived experiences even within the US are drastically different. And yet we can find community in King of the Hill. People from the Midwest may laugh at this issue, and people from Texas would go, yeah, that's crazy accurate. I hate snow. And it's such a great episode that shows why Hank is an assistant manager, why he's, should be a manager, because people have such a necessary respect for him because he respects them. And every time I see Buck have that heart attack in the snow, and Bobby's like, nah, if you want to make a good snow angel, you got to do it like this, not that. And he's just seizing as Bobby's making a snow angel. It's just, the jokes are so good because it's the same episode you got, well, that's why they call you Pa, because you're pathetic. Yeah, that's why you call you Ma, because you're always riding my ass. Like, it is... is some of the best writing, some of the best delivery. I adore Snow Job. It is probably in my top 5 episodes of all time. And there we have it. That's my top 5 episodes of Season 2. Yeah, Season 2 was terrific. I love early King of the Hill. I've always loved early King of the Hill. And, I mean, who doesn't love Maurice LaMarche? He's just kind of the best. Season 3. Wings of the Dope. This season was so hard to come up with a top 5 for. Not because it's bad. At all, but because you have episodes like this. Wings of the Dope is an episode about grief, growth, and moving on. It's not necessarily like a very funny episode, but it's never treated as it needs to be funny. This is Luann. She's coming up on her beauty school finals. She's visited by Buckley's ghost, and she's guided by this angel that, no one else sees. And so you, as the viewer, are questioning, is Buckley real? Is it a real angel, or is it just a figment of Luann's imagination? And either way, it works. Because the episode itself is so well guided and grounded. Again, if Simpsons did this, or, Family Guy had Peter get locked in an elevator with God, it would be much, much, much more literal for the sake of an exaggerated joke. Here, it's Luann having a personal journey after losing someone that she genuinely, truly loved. And maybe it's played up a little bit that everybody cares about Buckley that much, but just the way everything is set up and the storyboarding, the backgrounds are gorgeous in this episode. And while they don't play a ton of music throughout the show, the use of life in a northern town is masterful. I mean, it still elicits emotion out of me. And I've seen the episode well over 20 times at this point. I have caught it on rerun. I have seen it on my own. It is a very powerful, very poignant episode from a series that gives you Hank fishing with crack rock. Because you can do both ideas if you keep yourself somewhat grounded in the realms of reality. Because, even by the end of the episode, you have him shaking off his halo and walking off into the alley, and you get this sort of American mysticism, this Christian mysticism almost. But it's never like, this is a Christian show. This is, this is going to be the centerpiece of our entire existence. This is just, hey, what if Luann got closure and found a way to move on to a new chapter in her life? What if she goes to college? What if she tries? And Brittany Murphy's performance in this episode, I mean, it was award-worthy. It was absolutely a masterclass that it showed that she was truly one of the great actors of her time. Dogdale Afternoon. And here we are, a perfect example. Last time, number 5, an episode where Luann comes to the realization that maybe college is what's for her, and she gets over the loss of Buckley. She moves on. She experiences monumental growth. Dale goes crazy because Hank steals his brand new fancy lawnmower as revenge because Dale always steals his stuff and never returns it or absolutely ruins it in the process. The writing of the early seasons of the show is so perfect. It's so flawless because they understand that humans are multifaceted characters, that they can have so many unique flaws and still be endearing. Dale, as I have said in the past, is a horrible friend a lot of the time, but he's your horrible friend. He is that conspiratorial, Weasley little guy that you can't trust, but you can hang out with. He's a little much at every single point. And yet this episode really does humanize him. It really showcases why he and Hank are friends. He is very antagonistic, but it's more because he has, you know what, I'll say it, a schism of the tism. Just a smidgen. He knows some train facts, and we love him for it, and he just lacks this self-awareness. He lacks this, oh, my actions have consequences on others. Because when he talks with Hank, you can tell he's very genuine about how much Hank is his best friend, how Hank keeps him safe, and he understands that. It's just, he doesn't necessarily realize his actions have consequences, and that is just the scene up in the bell tower, clock tower, whatever, is one of my favorite scenes in the entire show, and it's just it's so good. I really love Dogdale Afternoon. That's probably one of the episodes I come back to the most of the early seasons. Hank's cowboy movie. If I had to show an alien one episode of King of the Hill to understand what it means to be American, I would show him Hank's cowboy movie. It's not a necessarily patriotic episode by any means, but it is the most earnest and genuine a son and a father story of the show. Like, Bobby wants to go to the big city so that he can make it big, and realistically so that he can support his parents and take care of them. And Hank doesn't want him to go. Hank wants him to be able to find a life and a wife in Arlen. He wants him to want to stay in Arlen, to stay close. And he wouldn't want that if he didn't care about his boy. And the wonderful thing about the community that Hank has built to this moment is, while they all may be flawed in their own unique ways, they all come together to make this Cowboys recruitment video together. They pool their resources, they use their own money, and they want to make this. And now, yeah, you could argue, well, they want the Dallas Cowboys to come to Arlen. And sure, yeah, the training camp is a part of it, but the real bit there is they want to provide a better life for the kids in the neighborhood. They want to inspire them. And even when, all the big productions fall apart and Peggy starts fighting with Nancy and you have this whole hullabaloo, in the end, they all come together, put together footage of their families, of what they've built together as a community. And sure, it never gets approved. It didn't need to get approved. It never needed to actually happen because it wasn't about that. It was about the journey. It was about friends coming together to do something to better their community just because they want their kids to be happy, because they want to give their kids a better future. There's just such a genuine love of thy neighbor, of thy friend in this episode. And it warms the heart. It shows off that raw Americana spirit at the end of the day that I have to hope everybody has, where they just want to help their fellow man. It's really, truly touching. 9 Pretty Darn Angry Men. Now this right here, this is just boom, good TV. I love this. I love every bit of this. This is peak. Again, I love court cases. I love jury deliberations. I love everything this is parodying. I am a huge fan of 9 Angry Men. I love Billy Bob Thornton, and my God, this is probably one of the best Cotton episodes of the entire show. It is a fantastic holiday episode that really showcases how Hank needs items to express his emotions. Like when we look back at Hank Got the Willies, he uses the guitar as a way to say things to his wife he could never actually say in person. It's his way of communicating his feelings. And his mower, he can't just trade in a mower that he's had for years, and he wants to keep fixing it time and time again. He doesn't want to get new relationships if he can salvage the old ones. And he hates that Cotton views his mom as an old mower. Like, there's so many layers to a lawnmower focus group episode. You see Hank as a leader. You see Hank as a son. You see Hank as, a disappointment in the eyes of his father and a dedicated father in the eyes of his family. You see how everyone has these different angles to them. And it's so weirdly chaotic yet subtle. It pulls you in, it keeps you locked in, and then it lets you go. It lets you just swim free. There's not necessarily that hook that completely guts you or anything like that. They grab your attention, they hold your attention, they let you go. It's catch and release. It is a catch and release episode. And I really kind of like that they just forced Peggy out of it, just making her pass out at the beginning. It brings it all together. This isn't a family episode. This isn't the family has to come together and unite. This is a Hank episode. Hank has to unite a room against the new age. He has to fight to repair the old times rather than abandoning them to go into the new. It is so good. Easily one of my favorite episodes of all time. Propane boom.
Oh, what? The YouTube man cheated and he's using a two-parter from Season 2 and Season 3 as his number 1? Oh, well, this ruins his credibility in my book. I'm going to leave a long comment saying that. This will surely rustle his jimmies.
I will be truly and utterly devastated, and I will not be able to carry on. If you're looking for my top episode of the season, it's the episode that sets the mood of the entire season, Propane Boom. And to truly appreciate Propane Boom Part 2, it's usually advised to watch Part 1. And just looking at Propane Boom as the first two-parter of King of the Hill, it's a masterclass. It is beauty. And obviously, you need Propane Boom to have Hanky Panky and High Anxiety. You have to be able to prove that a 2-episode, two-parter works for this kind of show. Who Shot Mr. Burns is one of the very few two-parters in The Simpsons, because it's much harder to do a two-parter in The Simpsons than it is, King of the Hill. For King of the Hill, it's effectively just mini movies. And Propane Boom is this wonderful marriage of destroying the status quo of Season 2 and introducing the healing and growth of Season 3. Yeah, realistically, Hank is going to be okay. But he's the only one that had any kind of plot armor when that store went up. They could have taken out Chuck Mangione. They could have taken out Luann. And the fact that they were willing to write out a character like Buckley is incredible. It's not like they were writing out a character played by a famous actor they couldn't get. Buckley is played by Dave Herman, who is in King of the Hill until Season 13 in some degree. He is a constant inclusion. So they were writing him off legitimately just because they thought it would work narratively. And it did. It set off an entire season of growth for Luann that tied into, Wings of the Dope. We would not have the impact from Wings of the Dope without Propane Boom. We would not have Hank wanting to build a better future in Hank's cowboy movie without him having a near-death experience in Propane Boom that made him look towards the future with some amount of hope. It is such an integral episode of the King of the Hill mythos, and it's so well done. And you got Jim Cummings in it. Who doesn't love Jim Cummings? I love it. I love it so much. Propane Boom is just perfection. And there we have it. That's my top 5 episodes of Season 3. Anything you think I was right on, wrong on? What are your top 5 episodes? Bottom 5 episodes? Let me know in the comments below. And if you liked what you saw, make sure to like, subscribe, and tell your friends we're out here. Yeah! Again, no idea. Season 3, great. Amazing. Did I cheat a little bit with Propane Boom? Yes. Do I feel bad about it? No. Why? Because it's great. And it's just, that's the whole season. There's just such a nostalgia. There's such a comfort to going back to these old King of the Hill episodes that I really appreciate the warmness of the show. I know like warmth technically works better, but I don't care. It's my video. It's fun. The early episodes of King of the Hill are fun. They're full of heart. They have so much creative depth to them, even if it's, Dogdale Afternoon. I remember watching season 3 and just being blown away. And it reminds you why you do projects like this. Anyway, that's going to do it for us here at the Lecture Hall. And if you want to support the channel, consider joining our Patreon or membership programs today. $2 a month gets you a special poll post and even your name on this fancy list. Yeah! Like always, thank you all so much for watching. Stay strong, keep fighting that good fight, and know that you matter. A rising tide lifts all ships, and I can feel one hell of a wave a-coming. Thank you so much, everybody, and we've still got so much more of our happy holidays coming your way. Season 4. Not in my backhoe. I've talked about it before, but yeah, no, it's because Drew Carey's in the episode. The Drew Carey Show was Americana for the Midwest. There are so few sitcoms that take place outside of, Seattle or Boston or New York or Chicago. You didn't get, Cleveland or, dare I say, an Indianapolis. So having a little bit more down-home comedy in the Drew Carey Show meant something to people from the Midwest. And so to see Hank, who was representative of the American South, and, Drew Carey's character together, it sort of brought it together. It brings me back to when I spent time with my dad watching new episodes of the Drew Carey Show and King of the Hill. And it's not like they were on the same network or anything. Drew Carey Show was on ABC. It wasn't some cash grab or trying to ride the popularity of some actor. It was just, hey, I think Drew Carey would do really, really well in the King of the Hill environment. And he works perfectly. Then, of course, you have Dale and Bill actually getting along and having an adventure as they spy on Hank and his new friend. Like, it works. It humanizes the characters, and it just sings. Oh, like, we're 4 seasons deep, and, I mean, the show has not dipped in quality at all. It is still one of the best shows ever made, and I adore Not in My Backhoe. Bills were made to be broken. I just really love this episode for Bill. It really shows who he is as a person at the end of the day. The man went to fight for his country and gave up, really, his whole civilian life. He didn't get to finish high school. He never went to college. He was in a horrible marriage, and his wife eventually left him after breaking down the bulldozer. And so when he sees someone that's about to break his record, the one big claim to fame he has, he's not upset with him. He's going and he's cheering him on. He wants this kid to succeed, to go beyond what he did, because he understands how important that is to him. He understands how hard it is on their bodies. He believes in him. He wants him to do well. Bill, at this point in the series, is a really well put together character. He cares to a fault. He is a genuinely nice person that just wears his heart on his sleeve. And he's vulnerable because of that. And when Hank is fighting so desperately for his friend's, one true honor in his life, Bill goes back. Bill is willing to push himself past all of his limits, throws himself against men half his age that are willing to eviscerate him. And he manages to cross the line. He manages to reclaim his legend on his own. And that's something about Bill, that sheer, raw tenacity that shines through. His body should have given out time and time again, but no matter what, he keeps getting up. If only for this moment, Bill is a perfect character. I adore this episode, and it honestly should have been part of a larger arc for Bill. It was so perfect. Meet the Propaniacs! I am a sucker for Hank and Bobby episodes where they get along, and to have Bobby using his stand-up and comedic expertise, using propane to keep people entertained, and getting his dad in on it and loving all the jokes, that's perfect. That is King of the Hill. This is one of the best episodes in the entire series. I love it dearly. It makes Joe Jack so much more endearing. Honey, I love everything that the Propaniac sets up and delivers on. It is a perfect Strickland Propane episode. Like, even just last season, Joe Jack was there a little bit more, but now he was actually directly involved in the A story. You know, he's come a long way from just showing up in the Snow Job episode briefly. Like, he is an actual endearing character. Buck. Love Buck. Buck is one of my favorite characters. I completely understand why he's probably not going to be in the new season. But hey, what can you do? You can't have greatness for too long. It's just... that last scene when they're at the food court and Bobby's doing his bits and he knows that the crowd is just not picking up what he's putting down, but his dad is cracking up on the side. And he keeps doing those bits because it's not for them, it's for his dad. And there's just something so genuine and heartfelt to that episode. It's really something special. Happy Thanksgiving. Holiday episodes, what can I say? They're a weakness of mine, and this one is just terrific. Not only is it an incredibly funny episode, the jokes are super sharp, there's a lot of subtle background jokes, which, like, King of the Hill was never known for its background jokes, but the more I go back to it, the more I notice that attention to detail, that, you know, a guy tripping or being pushed aside, that you don't necessarily notice when its main focus is on Hank and the family. But there is stuff going on in the background to appreciate. And I really love this idea of the entire neighborhood effectively being snowed in at an airport. It works phenomenally. It also gives us what I believe is the canon image of Peggy's mom. I know she's been in other ones, but my wife and I were watching the essential episodes on Hulu of King of the Hill, and boy howdy, boy gosh, I disagree with a lot of those essential episodes. But that's a conversation for a different video. It just, I don't know. I prefer this Peggy's mom and then have the Peggy's mom we got later on just be like her aunt or something. Did not work. Did not work. A rover runs through it, bad episode. But this, great episode. The turkey exploding on the tarmac is where it locked in. And I didn't like this episode as a kid. I hated this episode as a kid. I thought it was so boring and nothing. And as I got older, I'm like, oh, I get it now. And that's the charm of King of the Hill, right? Like, King of the Hill, as you get older, you stop laughing at Bobby's antics and start laughing at what Hank's doing. Like the WD-40 to unhinge a WD-40 can. I didn't get that for years until I started using WD-40 in my daily life, and then it's a whole new world of dumb, almost red-green-esque comedy. And I love it. It's so dumb in the best possible way. Hanky-panky/high anxiety. If you didn't think this two-parter was going to be number one, especially after last season, I don't know where you went wrong in understanding the academic. Yeah, no, Hanky Panky High Anxiety is amazing. It's fantastic. As a critic, I would argue it is one of the best episodes of King of the Hill of all time, best two-parter, obviously, and arguably the quintessential mission statement of what King of the Hill is. Hank getting thrown into shenaniganery. Now, it's more how does Hank react against these things that throw him out of his environment. But again, like I said in my review, these two episodes tell a perfectly contained story. Sure, they are referencing Debbie's relationship with Buck that you've seen, alluded to before, but you don't necessarily need those allusions early on for it to work in this episode. It just goes right into it. And it's very much, if we had a King of the Hill movie, it would be just hanky-panky high anxiety. I mean, Kathleen Turner is fantastic as Mrs. Strickland. Hot take, I didn't really care too much for Debbie. Debbie, I feel like, did not get enough lines to really sink in. Reese Witherspoon did her best, don't get me wrong, but Debbie was not a strong enough character to carry it. Because again, she's not the focus. The focus is, what if Hank was thrown into this whodunit murder situation where he thinks he might have smoked a marijuana and gotten too high to do anything else. And it's just like, at the end of the day, it's Hank terrified of the devil's lettuce while everyone else is dealing with this very real situation going on. You know Hank didn't do it, but anyone else is open season. And it's just so delightful. And honestly, I'm not even going to say how Debbie took herself out of the picture was like a cop-out or anything. It makes sense. And it's a good way to tell a very entertaining story without demonizing any characters. Everything they do is within the realms of what they would do, especially Buck, but they never take that extra step too far. I love this episode. And I would say this episode is responsible for so many animation writers feeling bolder about the stories they could tell. This episode's success, this two-parter success, was essential for adult animation to move forward. I stand by that. This is essential viewing for anyone that has ever had any interest in King of the Hill. This is a perfect example of what the show is, was, and forever shall be. And there we have it. That's my top 5 episodes of Season 4. Again, yes, Season 4 was just so fun. There was such a charm. I mean, yeah, I cheated again with my number 1, but can you blame me? That's not even just good King of the Hill. That's not good animated TV. That's just good television. That is just a bop. The fact that this thing did not win any awards, the fact that number 1, Hanky Panky High Anxiety, didn't win anything is criminal. That it was too good. Too good. Still, like, in my top 5 episodes of all time. Season 5. Chasing Bobby. Remember a couple seasons ago how I was talking about how Hank needs machines and items to express his feelings? Well, here's Exhibit McFrickin' A, a Universal Basic Guys review available right now. It's a good show. I thought it was going to be a bad show. Actually, a pretty good show. But yeah, Hank is worried about his truck that it's looking like is going to be irreparable after a point, where he's going to have to just replace it. And he's breaking down and he's showing emotions that Peggy thinks is about Bobby, about the passage of time. And it is about the passage of time. It is about age, but it's about something that he's taking care of failing no matter what he chooses or can do. He exhausts every option imaginable, and Bobby shares in that passion. Not because the truck means anything to him, but because that truck is his dad's. And he does say, this truck means something to me too, but it doesn't mean the same thing as it does to Hank. It means something to Bobby, but it's not his whole world like it is Hank's. But Bobby's whole world is his dad. And Bobby is willing to trek it in the mud and rain just to get a single piece of that truck back from the wreckage. Bobby is a good kid. And Hank is, at a moment's notice, he's willing to give up on the truck. He's willing to give up on everything, get a new truck just so he can go out and find his boy and make sure he's okay. And I think that's a really important element to Hank's arc, where he doesn't necessarily realize how important Bobby is to him. He knows Bobby's his whole world, but he is expressing that. He is showing Bobby he genuinely, truly cares about him. He is showing him the love he never got from his own father. And there's a lot of generational trauma Hank is breaking. Hank is a natural leader. He can inspire others, and he works hard with everyone. However, being a family man, showing love, showing affection, those are a little bit more difficult for him. He's foreign to those ideas, but he's trying. And it's those small victories in episodes like this that need to be celebrated. It's just incredible. The Trouble with Gribbles. I mean, how could I not? It's The Trouble with Gribbles. Not only is it a Star Trek reference, The Trouble with Tribbles, but it had frickin' Robert Stack in it. I love Robert Stack. I love Unsolved Mysteries. I love that whole fact or fiction idea. It's one of my favorite things in the world. I would love to host a show like that. To live my best Jonathan Frakes life. And so to have Robert Stack playing that cigarette president who is just absolutely flabbergasted by Dale's strategies, it's perfect. It rings true. It reminds me a lot of Burn After Reading, where they keep thinking that Dale is this really complex super agent who is going to tear him down from the inside, and he's just a guy trying to get his wife some free work done, even though she doesn't need it. And it's just his really complicated, horribly thought out way of showing his wife how much he cares for her. He genuinely loves Nancy. He is not an inherently bad man. Dale is the definition of chaotic neutral. He's going to do something crazy, but it's not gonna be because of any sort of moral compass. He's just that wild. He is just chaos. I gotta admit, I love the singing bass that has the camera in and the microphone, and it's just, all of it works so well. I adore this episode. It is one of my favorite episodes. I come back to it every time we rewatch King of the Hill. I make a point to stop on this episode and give us 23 minutes of greatness. It is terrific. The buck stops here. I actually love this episode for a lot of reasons. Not only is the A story absolutely perfect, and I'll get into that, but the B story with Peggy and the blood drive competing against Min for a mug? Oh, that's gold. That is comedy frickin' gold right there. That is Hank has been paying sticker price for his cars his entire life gold. It is absolutely perfect. I love this Peggy B story. Peggy had some fantastic B stories throughout the series, and I hate the sort of character assassination they've done throughout the years just by forgetting how to write Peggy. Like this Peggy, she is tenacious, she is stubborn, she is foolhardy, but she is funny. She is hysterical like this. When she is crawling with her mug high in the air, proud, it is a perfect last shot to that B story. The A story being, Buck taking Bobby under his wing is incredible. Especially getting to see Hank realize that his hero isn't that much of a hero and it all just starts falling apart on him. And also having Bobby realize that Buck isn't this incredible guy all the time. Bobby gets thrown into some incredibly dangerous situations, and Hank has to save his boy. And it's bittersweet in a way that Hank loses the illusion of his mentor, but deep down he always knew this about his mentor. It's a very complicated relationship they have, and I appreciate that they take the time to acknowledge, hey, it's not perfect, but it's what these two have. Buck can be Buck because he's got Hank, and Hank can be Hank because he's got Buck. If you can't fix any problems, why are you a problem fixer? Hank's backstory. I know this episode does not paint Hank's friends in the best light, but the campiness of the entire idea of the episode is why I love it as much as I do. Hank's ass has been whittled away, so he needs these special ass gel sacks to replace his ruptured butt cheeks. And so he has to wear them if he's ever gonna compete in the lawnmower races. A perfectly normal thing people did. And this is a real thing. There are lawnmower races. This wasn't made up for the show. And there's just this down-home, silly fun in the entire neighborhood getting ready for a lawnmower race. And they're actively sabotaging Hank. And one of my favorite lines is during the final race, and Bobby's like, "Oh no, Dad, he popped his right ass cheek. That's his pivot cheek. Oh, what's he gonna do now?" And one of the guys throws him his butt cheek, and he's able to slip it in his butt sack and save the day. It's so dumb. All of it is dumb, but all of it is human. None of it is like hyper exaggerated. It's all within the realm of possibility. Now, him wearing a special butt flap harness to keep his cheeks in, yeah, I'm not trusting that 120%, but it was great. This is the kind of satirical, tongue-in-cheek, just good fun I expect from King of the Hill. This is wonderful. It is that it's much like Hank fishing with crack rock. It exists to throw Hank into surreal situations that someone could feasibly have been thrown into themselves. You could have at some point fished with crack rock. Not saying you have, not saying you know how to, but it could have happened at some point, possibly, maybe. The Exterminator. So here's a fun fact about The Academic. The first R-rated movie I ever watched when I was a kid was Office Space. Now, of course, I didn't know Office Space was Mike Judge. I had no idea about the later ramifications of this movie my mom rented from a video vault all those years ago. All I knew was I was laughing at Milton going, I believe you have my stapler, and just adoring that. I was like 8. I didn't get the rest of the movie. I didn't understand the rest of the movie, but I was cracking up. I was cracking up at the funny voices, at Michael Bolton. I was absolutely losing my mind when I heard, "Hey, Peter, you get those TPS reports in yet?" Like, just Gary Cole's performance in that movie was flawless. Even Mike Judge's appearance as the restaurant manager is terrific. The flair lines, that is amazing. And so I always loved that sort of dark comedy, workplace comedy idea. And that really helped shape my comedic views, was watching Office Space. Because we got the DVD and I watched it with the commentary track. I watched the deleted scenes. I watched everything and anything I could about that movie. And that's when I started to discover, Mike Judge, and I started watching Extract, because I had watched King of the Hill. And so when I got to The Exterminator, I was like, oh, this is just Office Space comedy again. Except instead of Jennifer Aniston, who was in Friends, they got Lisa Kudrow, who was also in Friends. So it's not like it's that much of an exaggeration, and obviously Mike Judge knows how to write office comedies, but I've never seen Silicon Valley. Who would? It's only an award-winning super show. Love me some Silicon. It is just, I love The Exterminator. Not even so much because it's a Dale episode. It's a good Dale episode. It shows why he rebels against the system. And it shows that he's not a horrid monster. He's just his whole own thing. And this made me really respect his relationship with Joseph. Like, he is a true doting father to Joseph. He loves him more than anything. And I really appreciate that, at the end of the day, he did something for the good of his family over the good of himself. He was willing to sacrifice his identity, his uniqueness for this job. And it just, it is such a good episode. And there we have it. That's my top 5 episodes of Season 5. Yay! Season 5 was great. And it allowed me to talk about Office Space, which is one of my favorite movies of all time. And I will always take that opportunity every day because it's just that good. No, season 5's great. I love the Buck episodes. I love, like, we got Robert Stack, and that's great. The Stack got back. It was a good season. It was a great season, actually.
Ew, it's season 6.
Tanking it to the streets. It's just another good Bill episode. Hearing him singing Freebird as he's nakedly, drunkenly driving a tank is perfect. And I love when Dale makes Bill spiral. Not because it makes, Dale look like a good person or anything. Just because it's good for comedic effect. And Bill is someone that will absolutely eat up that he's some sort of walrus super soldier. And just hearing Hank's just utter exhaustion when Dale goes, placebo. And he goes, dang it, Dale, that's a placebo. It's so the gang drives a tank. It is almost always Sunny-esque. And again, it's an absurd premise, but it's a premise that could realistically happen within the means of their show. Bill works on base. They're having war games. It's not unheard of that he'd be able to sneak into a tank or that he's trained in how to operate them. Like, it's so minute, but it matters so much. And the friends are willing to go directly into a live zone with their buddy, and he manages to make it out. Now, of course, that's not really all that believable, but it's so nice to see these episodes where Hank and the guys show Bill they care, where everybody is getting along, even if Dale is the sole antagonizer of the entire ordeal. It's just terrific. The Substitute Spanish Prisoner. If there was ever an episode of King of the Hill I could watch on repeat for 24 hours without getting bored, it would be this one. I don't know what it is about the Substitute Spanish Prisoner, but it is an episode that just feels so comforting, familiar, delightful. It checks every box I need it to check. Maybe it's just my deep love of Jeff Goldblum. He does terrific in the episode. It's a great Peggy episode where she's equally her most insufferable idiot self and her super smart, confident self at the same time. And there's so much intersection, and I love it. I just straight up adore it. Like, I could talk about this episode forever. And critically, I know it's not that amazing. I know it's not that, iconic. But personally, it's next level. This is one of the episodes that made me want to be a writer. I never ended up being a writer, but this made me want to make my own animated series. It is inspiring to me. And one of my favorite scenes is when Peggy's like, no one could ever figure this out. This is a test only for geniuses. And then Luann passes it, and that's all the confirmation they need that it's a scam. And they don't say anything. They don't acknowledge that. They don't tell Luann that. They just, in that moment, it's like, oh no, I've made a horrible mistake. And it's those little things that made the show in the early seasons so special. Like, that is so incredible to me. I love it. I love the episode. Torch Song Hillegy. Oh, look at that. It's Hank having to grapple with his humiliation because he decided to showboat, and he doesn't know if he has it in him to carry the Olympic torch, even though his entire community backs him. What a touching and emotional episode that gives Hank some amount of closure. This episode, as I've gotten older, I have appreciated it more and more, understanding, former glory and wanting to recapture, wondering if there was something you did that cursed you. And to have Hank basically be lifted up by his community, being nominated by his friends because they know he's worth it. That really brings home Hank's growth. Hank has become a man, much like his father in a lot of ways, that other men can count on, that could trust, They would follow him into battle if he asked them to. He is a natural leader, and he has taken care of his community. And he's never, full of himself about it or anything. He's actually very dismissive of everything he does for everyone. But they aren't dismissive of him. Even his community is like, he delivered me propane in the snow. Because to him, doing those things is just doing the right thing. But to everyone else, those are acts of heroism. And there's this wonderful, not necessarily imposter syndrome, but definitely this guilt, this unworthiness that he feels that really shines through this episode. And I know I don't talk about Mike Judge's performance as Hank all that much, but this performance was really, this episode, he knocked it out of the park. This was Hank probably at one of his most vulnerable moments, and they never pulled the rug out from under him for a joke. Even when the flame went out and was relit by Dale's cigarette, it made sense. It worked. It never takes away the weight of what was accomplished that day. And that makes it really mean something.
Bobby goes nuts.
Look, I'm going to be completely honest with you. This is going to be hyperbolic. This is going to be 100% exaggerated, but I'll say it. Bobby Goes Nuts saved America. And if you hear me say that after this, just know I'm still being hyperbolic. I am still very aware of this joke, but I stand by it. Much how Spider-Man renewed New York spirit after the horrible 9/11 event, this is a perfect example of when we needed comedy, we got Bobby just running up and kicking nut. And sometimes that's all you need. Sometimes you just need, that's my purse, I don't know you. And it works. It absolutely shines. This is perfect old King of the Hill style with a new twist. This is a new generation falling in love with the series all over again. I adore this episode. This episode is just hysterical. Just having Bobby crank it back and just kicking his dad so hard in the nuts that one's just stuck. He's down. He's on bed rest. He's gotta take one after calling Bobby soft or a portly gentleman or, saying he's not athletic, and then just boom, down he goes. Stay down. It is, and then he goes power mad. That's the part I love. I love that Bobby goes power mad, unlocking this new Kamehameha wave to the testicles. It is amazing. And yeah, sure, no, it probably did not save America. I'm going to keep saying it did. I'm going to make it take off. Just you watch. People are going to go, you know what? Hang on. Let him cook. Let him cook. What's this about Bobby kicking nuts, giving America the will to fight back in the face of adversity? It's like, well, it's not there. It's not actually there. We all had a laugh. Ho, 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 ho. Oh, how we laughed. But now you'll be in on the inside joke. Bobby Goes Nuts is just good fun. I love me some Bobby Goes Nuts.
And there we have it, my top 5 episodes of Season 6. Get your fix, yeah.
Season 6, what's not to say? It helped heal a fractured nation. It gave us someone to unite around, and that somebody was everybody's favorite Husky Bobby. I don't know what you want from me. Season 6, I will actually go on record of saying that if Season 6 did not happen, America would have faltered. Season 6 saved America. King of the Hill is one of the most patriotic shows you will ever watch, and it is a true, unbeholden spectacle of what makes America so great.
Don't go to heaven, 'cause it's Season 7. Full Metal Dust Jacket.
There is something about a good Peggy and Dale episode where they just kind of feed into each other, and I just kind of love it. And this episode is fantastic for that. I love that Peggy gets basically suckered into opening a bookstore, and then Dale turns it into a shooting range, because of course he does. And it's just, you get why she's so frustrated. You get why she's so, she hates that this is how the store is making a profit. But Dale is genuinely a really good businessman when it comes to guns. He knows what's up. And I don't know. There is a wholesomeness to the end of the episode where the gun club members are like, well, I already got this book. I want to talk about this book. And it's one of the many appearances of, a dinner of onions that'll show up throughout the series. I think it's even mentioned in the new season. Like, it's wild to me that they have these running jokes in the background, especially, a dinner of onions, which is a real book. It's just like, why dedicate so much to it? And that just goes to show how much care there still was, 7 seasons in. 7 seasons into most shows, you start to see it wobble a little bit. And while there are some, lackluster episodes, Full Metal Dust Jacket just sort of reminds you why you're here. It's just good TV. Pygmalion. I will admit, when I was watching this, in, high school, middle school, when it was on reruns on, Adult Swim and everything, I hated Pygmalion. I thought it was so dumb, so unnecessarily creepy. And then as I got older and I started to become more and more aware of, niche horror and B-movie horror and stuff like that, I really started to love it. And I got it. I understood how weird it was intentionally. And I mean, Michael Keaton does a fantastic performance in this, stunningly creepy. He is terrific. It's so good. It's like Michael Keaton is to, Trip, I think is his name, as Chris Pine is to Alistair Kovacs in Nighthawk's Hideaway on Rabbit Ears and American Dad. It is just such a haunting, weird, creepy performance that he does so earnestly he makes the episode work. The episode is not a terribly funny episode, much like some of the other best episodes of King of the Hill, but it is a fantastic little horror movie. It is delightfully creepy and odd, and people don't talk about that in Beavis and Butthead enough. There is this very distorted style to it, and you can tell Mike Judge really likes that kind of weird look to things. So I really appreciated how out there this was. An officer and a gentle boy. This is just more Bobby being good Bobby, and I think this is probably one of my essential viewing episodes going into the new season of the show, whatever that may be. Because it really shows how Bobby has this infallible spirit. He is a comedian with the thickest skin imaginable. He could go places. He is a genuinely inspired and talented kid. And I get it. I get why Cotton, wants to break him and then rebuild him. But Bobby is just so resilient, it works wonderfully. I mean, he is just the absolute best in this. And it really goes to show that Hank, he'll go, that boy ain't right. But then turn around and go, you know what? I am kind of proud of my son. He is kind of cool, isn't he? He is goo. He is the ooze. But no matter how much you stomp on ooze, he's still going to be ooze. He's still going to be there, and he's still going to be making people laugh. It is just, it's so good. I love it so much. It is one of my favorite episodes. I keep coming back to it. I'm just genuinely a sucker for good Hank and Bobby episodes. Not, Bobby has weird hobby and Hank gets oddly competitive in it, i.e. the Rose episode. Actually having them bond over things and, they realize where they need to find some common ground. And there's this weird mutual respect between the two of them that, again, Hank is odd about showing his love. He doesn't really do it all that well because he wasn't shown it that well, i.e., his dad riding in on a horse saying that he was nothing, but Bobby knows his dad loves him. Bobby knows his dad is proud in his own way, and that's what really makes this episode special, especially Bobby outlasting Cotton. That was really the crux of why I love this episode so much. Megalodale! Rip to a real one, Chuck Mangione. I mean, what else do you want me to say? I'm not about to say, King of the Hill is cursed or anything. Chuck Mangione was very old when he passed. Obviously what happened with Jonathan Joss was horrible. You know, of course, we lost Johnny Hardwick, we lost Tom Petty, we lost Brittany Murphy. But man, this is such a good episode. Probably one of the only ones where Chuck Mangione really gets a lot of the spotlight, but I love it. And I had no idea Chuck Mangione was a real guy when this came out. I thought he was being played by just some guy. I did not realize it was Chuck Mangione played by Chuck Mangione. I felt like a big dumb idiot. Also, I think this episode also has Topher Grace and Tom Arnold in it, which is so wild to me because Tom Arnold is such a minor character in it. And it's just, the jokes are great. Love the episode. I don't know. There's just something wonderful about the boys helping Dale look competent in front of professionals. And it's just like, that's so minute and yet perfect in the best way. And huge shout out to Johnny Hardwick. There is no one that can truly do Dale like him. And again, there is that almost, I dare say, mysticism to not only Arlen, but now Megalomart, because Chuck Mangione just lives in between the walls, and there's a mongoose in the play area. That last shot with the mongoose's eyes in the ball pit gets me every time. I love this episode. It's just like a dumb rerun you catch on some idle Tuesday. It's great. It's delightful. It's not going to be the best episode of King of the Hill, but you know you're going to laugh at least once.
The Miseducation of Bobby Hill.
I could watch this episode probably 100 times in a row and not get tired of it. I have dedicated, as odd as it sounds, I've dedicated a lot of my life to the life lessons in the miseducation of Bobby Hill. Like, I've sadly worked a lot of sales in my day, and, you know, I have tried to push the Hank Hill honest, you know, here is some information, and talk it over with a trusted individual and get back to me. And it works. It absolutely works. That's how you get repeat customers. That's how you build rapport. And this episode is, again, just very simple, but King of the Hill thrives in simple. It's a sales contest at work where Bobby and Joe Jack are being the shiny, suave business guys, and Hank believes in slow and steady and tried and true, and sure enough, by the end, he's winning. But it makes sense why he won. Right? He did his research. He encourages others to do their research before buying. And it's just this really simple way of showing Bobby how, you know, he may view his dad as boring, but his dad is damn good at what he's doing. Like, he is a professional. He puts the pro in propane, okay? That's why Buck is willing to bet him, because he knows he has a high value. He didn't think he'd lose, but he did. And it's just, on one hand, you feel for Hank. You wish he was higher up on the totem pole. But on the other hand, this is where he shines. This is where he just absolutely excels. And I really love that we get more of Joe Jack, and how Joe Jack is just swayed by a child's whims is kind of great. It shows why Joe Jack is where Joe Jack is. It shows why Joe Jack is the eccentric spirit that you love from a distance. He is there. And also just Buck at his most chaotic is Buck at his best. I don't know what you want from me. I love any episode that gives me Buck up to shenanigans.
There we have it. Those are my top 5 episodes of Season 7. Season 7 was okay. I love the band episode. There were episodes that shaped me into the person I am today. And overall, you know, it was fun coming up with a top 5 for the season. Unlike the next season, there was just a lot to really, really appreciate.
It is your fate to see Season 8.
Stressed for success.
I'm gonna be real with you, gang. This season was difficult to come up with a top 5 for. It was some rough viewing. And like, stress for success, it's not okay, how do I frame this? there is not 5 episodes of this season I would consider my favorite. However, Stress for Success is a very relatable episode to me that I have found myself revisiting and understanding more and more that there is a desperate need to be appreciated for mundane information. Basically, this whole pressure to excel at answering questions quickly. It is, at its core, it's actually pretty dumb. And so to have Bobby in this academic competition having to remember all these pop culture fun facts so he can dish them out whenever it's asked, it just kind of, I don't know, it defeats the purpose of media criticism, I would argue. If you're just, reciting fun facts without relating them to anything, it doesn't really do anything. It doesn't elevate. It is mass appeal, and that's all it is. And it's just, as the, pop culture kid on my team, it was harrowing. It was depressing to go through and, have to effectively turn entertainment into education. And I don't know, this episode just sort of made me appreciate turning your brain off and just watching something again. And again, that's like, it's still not a glowing review of the episode. It's fine. It's got Kelly Clarkson in it, I guess. Yeah, it's there. How I learned to stop worrying and love the Alamo. And this is just sort of like, if I had to pick one, this is what I want to watch from this season. Like, the real only saving grace of this episode to me is Hank's speech at the end and him being so patriotic for the Alamo, even though, of course, he's not actually from Texas. He was born in New York. But there has always been this love and appreciation for the Alamo, and you can really hear it in Mike Judge's performance, how much this horribly inaccurate reenactment hurts him. You can hear a genuine pain in his voice. And it takes a very special kind of voice actor that truly understands a character in and out to deliver lines like that. And I know we talk about Seth MacFarlane as Roger and Stan, but Mike Judge as Hank Hill, he can do very nihilistic. He can do really, passive, blasé characters really, really well. But Hank Hill is so passionately earnest, and he is delivered so genuinely. And, he never really sways on that. He is always 100% in how he plays Hank Hill. And this episode, if nothing else, makes me appreciate that care he puts in every single episode. After the Mold Rush. Here we go. This episode, I could watch this episode. That's season 8 for you. I could watch this episode. It's not bad. It's just, I don't think I would watch it 100 times in a row. Chris Elliott, fantastic in it. Love Chris Elliott. He is absolutely delightful. His daughter's in The Bear. And his dad, him, and his daughter were all in an episode of King of the Hill. Not this one, but a different one. He's in I want to say 3 or 4 episodes of the show. No, he's also, he's the real estate guy. So he's in way more than that. He's 6 episodes. Oh, this show is breaking me. After the Mold Rush is probably some of the sharpest comedy in the season. They do a lot of really good, cut scenes and the screaming couple at the motel. I think that's fantastic. All right, I will let the missus know. They said no. The deliveries are still solid. The voice acting is still top notch, even if the writing, wanes a little bit. And it's truly one of the episodes of the season. It's great to see Hank do his little, extortion thing, which became his odd go-to later on in the show, where it's just I'm gonna extort you with Bill's stink-ass feet. And it just, sure, okay, bud, whatever you say. It just, wow, it is It's a lot. But it kind of works for, you know, the absurdity of earlier King of the Hill. So it's kind of nostalgic in a way. Number 2, Dale Tech. I love a good Dale episode, and this episode is a Dale episode. It's nice that Cotton has something to do. Don't love that he has a whip. Don't love that we armed the tiny man. Don't love that the man that killed 50 men is just roaming around people's houses. But again, this episode is a celebration of how weird Rainy Street actually is. Like, imagine if your neighbor was breaking into your home to sleep with his wife and drink your juice. Imagine if this same neighbor would, you know, shower in the nude and then give you a show afterward. It's like, what? What is this? What is going on here? Why? And it's just so necessarily absurd. And I just, at that point, when you look at the season, you're just like, all right, this broke me. This is the moment that the brain is broke. The game is over. I concede. You win. Sometimes King of the Hill just breaks your spirit and makes you laugh from the exertion of it. It's just like, yeah, of course Khan does that. Khan has the redneck fantasy. Sure, why not? It's just like, cool, dude. You got it. Number 1, living on Red's vitamin C and propane. I'm gonna say something real controversial here, but if my favorite episode of a season is a Christmas episode, that's not a good sign. And this Christmas episode is probably one of the most famous King of the Hill episodes of all time. It's the one where he's in the semi, where he's driving home from his mom's for Christmas. You know, it is. I've been seeing so much discourse online about, you know, when Dale stows away on the truck without telling Nancy, and Nancy's like in her robe, distraught, and there's a cop at her door, and there's so many comments going like, what were they doing? I'm like, did you watch the scene? Did you see the tears in her eyes and how she's very obviously panicked and worried that Dale is just gone? She hasn't heard from him and she doesn't know what's going on with him at all? Like, gee, I wonder what's happening. I think she's filing a missing persons report. But sure, gang. Yeah, what's going on here? And it's just like, come on, gang. Let's be a little critical. I did like all the country music stars that show up in this episode. That's a very nice Christmas special touch. A lot of like Christmas episodes of, you know, Reba, or I think Coach did it with Wayne Newton or something like that. It's an oddly specific part of Americana where you gotta have a country or large music star for your Christmas episode. And they got a ton of them. It is just genuinely wholesome. You have Hank and Bobby bonding. Hank doesn't, you know, blame Bobby when they get the truck stuck up the mountain because it wasn't his fault. He wasn't driving it. He's a child. These adult men bullied a child. Like, he is a... This episode made me realize, I'm not going to say made me realize, but reinforced the idea that Hank is a good dad. Like, Hank genuinely cares for Bobby. And, you know, he can bash him here and there, but he loves him so much. And it's a good Christmas episode. Even the Peggy and Luann story is dumb in a good way. It's just no notes. It's kind of perfect. Okay, there we have it. My top 5 episodes of Season 8. We got there. Yeah. Whew. Season 8 was a struggle to come up with a top 5 for. I'm not going to lie. All things considered, Stress for Success probably should not have been number 5. It was kind of a struggle. I related to the episode, but that was about it. The season was okay. It wasn't amazing. I still revisit some of these episodes from time to time, but it's a season that's just kind of wispy to me.
Season 9 is so fine.
Mutual of Homabois. Again, yeah, I am just a sucker for good Hank and Bobby episodes. And Hank teaching Bobby about responsibility by having to write a check to pay for insurance is, it's just the best. And then him forgetting to pay their insurance, so they're uninsured and they start panicking. It's just that, coupled with, Dale doing bee stings and Bill and Boomhauer doing deep frying anything. It's just, it's so good. And then you have Luann and Peggy, over at a stop where they have to attack a vending machine to get food. It's just so dumb, but it works. Like, they kind of had this rebound in this season where some episodes, they figured out the groove. We're at a point where, the story doesn't matter. There's no long season arcs anymore. And so you have to have these pocket episodes that hit all the right notes. And I think Mutual of Omabois is a fantastic rerun episode. You get everything you need to know about everybody. Everybody's doing something. It is a complete story with a beginning, middle, and end that has a solid conclusion. I know that sounds so basic, but it at least ends on something. It ends on a win. And when an episode can do that, when you can just catch this episode at like 7 p.m. because it encroaches deeper and deeper, and eventually Adult Swim will be on at like 4 p.m., and I'll be needing my third supper by then. And it's just, this episode's great. I have no notes on the episode. It is genuinely one of my favorites. I love Dale just being covered in bee stings, going like, help, I'm allergic. It's like, that's a perfect Dale thing to do. Of course he forgets he's allergic to bee stings as he sells bee stings. It's art. Yard She Blows. This one was just kind of great, though. I love the, Peggy finding a garden gnome, learning about the deep garden gnome lore, and then Bobby and Hank, hiding the body after, of course, Bobby's playing Mr. President Bodyguard, because, of course, he is. It's just, it's so dumb, it's so absurd, and yet so believable. I would absolutely believe back in, the 2000s, there was novelty, specialty gnome stores, and a small group of people that had these deep gnome lore adventures. And that's just sort of the culture at the time. Remember, before the internet, everybody saw Bigfoot. There was stories of Bigfoot everywhere because we wanted to have something weird in our lives. Okay, we wanted something out there and different, and maybe we wanted our garden gnomes to come to life. They didn't. And Winklevoss is kind of horrible, but maybe though. Maybe it'd be a veritable Romeo and Juliet. I don't know what I'm talking about at this point. I just like the absurdity of it. Again, season 9 wasn't like an amazing season, but at least there were episodes that I was like, you know what, okay. Yard She Blows is tolerably fantastic in some parts. Yeah, you got me. Smoking in the Bandit. This is probably one of my favorite Dale episodes of all time. And I do like that, Peggy makes an outstanding journalist. She is willing to get to the bottom of anything. She is tenacious with it. I genuinely really loved her journalism arc, even if it was short-lived. I think that was probably the best job for her, and we could have gotten so much more content out of it. And the Dale story of him being this renegade smoker, obviously a very dated episode, because nowadays someone could just whip out their phone, record him, and there he is. But having him doing all of this active rebellion to earn his son's respect was really kind of amazing for him as a character. It showed that he has this desire to be seen as cool, to have his son listen to him just like how Bobby listens to Hank. Bobby respects Hank's authority, and Dale is Dale. He's this little wiry rat man that does whatever he wants to and doesn't necessarily deserve respect a lot of the time. And it's really cool seeing him take this sort of rebellious, for a purpose cause. He is actively doing this to just impress Joseph. And it's yeah, Dale's not always a good friend, but he's most of the time trying to be a good father. He loves Joseph, and he loves Nancy. He is just very, very weird about it. It ain't over till the fat man sings. You know this is like one of the most popular King of the Hill episodes of all time. Who doesn't love It Ain't Over Till the Fat Man Sings? I kind of adore Dale's, little crash out at the end of it, and it's a wonderful performance by Johnny Hardwick, but it's also just so very Bill. It's not the best Bill episode, by far, not at all, but it is very funny. It's very understandable how Bill would get roped into something like show choir. And it's just Bill trying to find a way to be recognized, to feel like he's seen as someone unique. It's not him chasing, fame and fortune. It's chasing just being someone other than a number. And it makes sense for him. He was a bit of a celebrity when he was a kid. He was the bulldozer. And then when he joined the military, he just became a barber. And I think that's why that end moment with the general is so important, where he's like, "You're one of the best in the biz. That's why I say we have the cleanest cuts known to man." And it's like, that really makes Bill shine. The fact that he is a good barber, the fact that he is a good hairdresser matters. Like, he's really good at his job, even if it's, being a military barber. That does take some amount of talent. But of course, he gets emotionally manipulated and ends up, blowing through all of his sick time and vacation time and almost losing his job and getting court-martialed. All for the sake of show choir and wearing the same undies as somebody else. It's weird, but you get it. It's also kind of nice to see the Reverend Stroop flirting earlier on that gets built on later in the show. So there's some elements to it that make Bill look better than he thinks he is. Tale to the Chief. I think I lied to you when I said Smokey and the Bandit's my favorite Dale episode, because I love a lot of Dale episodes, and Tale to the Chief might actually be my favorite Dale episode. Yeah, get used to hearing that. It's another banger. What if Dale actually believed the JFK assassination was done by Lee Harvey Oswald? That's the episode. And how he swings on that pendulum so far, overcorrecting into the most patriotic, eagle blood-fueled man imaginable, is art. And then you have Hank fighting so much to get his gender changed on his driver's license, and that's a thing. And it's just like a really, really, really wild A story, and a B story that's very, very mundane with an extreme twist, with Dale involving himself in it. Like, it's all very believable. And I just, the special agent coming, he's like, "There's certain people I'm looking for. You're not one of them. He's not either." Like, that's perfect. That is everything you need out of the episode. And Dale is just this overcorrecting little moron, and it shines. I love when he just paints the American flag on Hank's house, and when he's mad about it, he's like, "And he hates America." And it's just like, no, he hates that you painted on his roof. It's perfect for Dale, and this is why I couldn't give up on this season or the later seasons, because there's still good episodes here. And like, Dale to the Chief is in my constant rotation because it's just that good. But okay, there we have it, everybody. That's my top 5 episodes from season 9. Woo, yeah. Yeah, season 9 was okay. I don't know. The 5 episodes I did pick were enjoyable, but overall, it was just, they were fine. They were there. I do revisit some of them, mostly because my wife enjoys them more than I do, and that's okay.
Season 10.
You gotta believe in moderation. Did you know the Ace was actually played by the same guy that was Pa Kent in Smallville? I will always bring that up now. I need to. It is imperative. But I love the ace. I love that Hank takes him seriously when he's just, playing around Harlem Globetrotter style. He's like, what if we could actually win? What if we could show him the power of teamwork? And it's like, buddy, no, you know what? I'm not too mad that he took the check because you were kind of being horrible. And then they do what he does best, extort him. They rock his RV. They say they'll show up to each of his games. It is just so much all the time. I don't know. I like when Hank becomes like a shakedown mafioso. Boah. It just, 10 was a rough season. But at least this episode was here. It's not like one of my absolute favorite episodes. Again, kind of a struggle to find a top 5 that I'm like really on board for. But, what can you do?
Harlot Town.
And like, here we go. Another perfect example. Like, this is not one of my favorite episodes of all time, ever. It is literally here because Gary Cole is a guest voice on it, and I love Gary Cole. Like, the first 2 acts of this episode are really, really, really strong. And then you get to the award show, and it's like the tires were slashed, and they just had to push it in neutral across the finish line. It is a slog to get to the credits, but the first half is super, super strong. It makes a lot of sense. It just... I don't know what happened. It just kind of imploded right on the runway. It never sticks that landing. But Gary Cole, again, it harkens back to Office Space. It's great to hear his voice in the show. Why don't you come up and see us sometime? And again, you have that, Peggy's journalistic integrity coming into play, having her be this, investigative reporter showing the truth, even if the truth is hard to swallow. Is that pun intended? Anyway, the episode is fine. It's perfectly fine.
Hank's on board.
This episode, I do come back to somewhat frequently, and it's mostly because it's so refreshing to see Hank just sort of giving in, just enjoying the ride and being with his buddies, and how they try and pretend that they can be independent without him, and then they're just like, but it all fell apart. The nacho cheese joke was one he stole. It's not his. And it's just like, you know what? That's really wholesome in a way. And seeing them work together to get rescued, it's just... and even the B story with Peggy and Bobby fighting a bunch of metal detector, grandpas. That's great. That's fun. The episode itself never bogs itself down. It never, throws too much story for the cast to handle. Everything is still believable. It makes sense. And it shines. It shines because Hank wants to be that casual bud with his buds. And that's just not who he is, and you see that that's who he needs to be.
The year of washing dangerously.
I have mixed feelings about this episode. On the one hand, I love Con running a car wash. I love Buck, going in as a silent partner so that he can, look cool and impress chicks with hot rods. I love Dr. Quarters. I love everything about this episode except how Buck treats Hank. And because then by the end of it, he's like, I know that Hank is my golden goose, old top. And it's like, okay, but then why did you put him in this situation with a guy he actively hates, though? And it's just, the setup for it is confusing, but the payoff is worth it. The payoff feels satisfying. Again, this isn't an incredible season, so these aren't like, wow, this episode reshaped what King of the Hill could be. But it's a good version of the miseducation of Bobby Hill, just not as strong, if it's a whisper of a good episode, it's still typically an okay episode.
24-hour propane people.
This is just a good Buck episode, and sometimes you need an episode with Buck where he just goes all in on some Cold Stone Creamery nonsense because he can't go to his favorite strip club anymore after fighting a guy over an egg roll. that is a perfect Buck situation. I obviously, I know you're not going to get Buck in the new season. I'm going to miss him madly because he is so good. I adore him. I think Buck is one of the best characters in the entire show. So to have an episode where this man of propane is doing, help, he's insane for propane. Like, it is perfect. It is absolutely fantastic. I love how Hank is just so downtrodden and how everybody's crying as they're playing, like, not Pictionaries, but it's like Scattergories or something stupid. It's soul crushing in the best way. And also, huge shout out to Danny Trejo as Enrique. He does great. I'm so glad to hear Danny Trejo just having fun with a character. He's just so genuine about Enrique, and I appreciate that from him. Hour 10. Let's give it up for Hour 10, everybody. And there we have it. That's my top 5 episodes of Season 10. We're becoming 24-hour propane people ourselves. Season 10 was, I don't know. As far as like the digital age of King of the Hill goes, this was fine. This was perfectly everything I wanted. I don't hate any of the episodes I put on this list. They're just very interesting picks for me. 24-hour propane people will always be funny to me. Just Buck fighting in a strip club over an egg roll. Some things are just too pure for this world.
Tell somebody named Kevin.
It's season 11.
The Peggy Horror Picture Show. This was admittedly a tricky episode to come up with a top 5 on because there was like 12 episodes. So like, which half of the season is your favorite? But the Peggy Horror Picture Show, I think, is a very important episode. And I've had commenters point out that they may not just be a drag queen, they may be trans, and this is trans representation. They don't want to be dead named and stuff like that. And that's wonderful. That's so great that King of the Hill was doing something that progressive when it was doing it. The jokes are solid, and it's never like, Hank may realize what's going on. He may not. And either way, that's fine. He's never antagonistic towards anyone. He's never, aggressive. He just wants Peggy to have a friend, to have people that can support her. And I think that's one of the shining elements to King of the Hill, is that even if it gets political, the political message is usually just treat people with respect. Let people live their lives and, let bygones be bygones. It's not that deep a lot of the time. And I don't know. It's something that I hope carries over into the new season, is this, that down-home belief that everybody is deserving of equal rights. And that last scene where Peggy is at that closed potluck is fantastic. That little exchange is delightful, and it's great to see that she has a community, and it really means something. The Passion of the Dotrieve. Yeah, and then you have the episode where Reverend Stroop and Bill are necking on the down low. It's really more just how disgusted the entire community is in the whole situation, just seeing them all reviled that, she could ever be making out with the bulldozer. It's just so, and then of course he gets bored with it when she's like, I quit for you. I don't need to be a reverend anymore. And I don't know why I gave her a southern accent. She's got that thick Minnesota accent there. She doesn't need to be a little reverend. She'll find another job. It's what she does with Bill that makes it all so special. And it's just, in a way, it's great to see that Bill is kind of a bad guy at the end of the day. And also that he had something. He legitimately had someone that was genuinely attracted to him. And it's this wonderful marriage of a twinge of cringe and art. It's so dumb. It's so dumb. And I will admit I got very burnt out towards the end of this. I rewatched all these episodes for this. So when you're 11 seasons deep, you're like, oh, okay, I see how it is. This is something else. Grand Theft Arlen. Like this episode, which isn't about, like ESRB ratings or how extreme games are warping our children's minds. It's about video game addiction, which is surprisingly evergreen. Hey, maybe take a minute away from your game. Dailies don't have to be done. They're predatory and force you to keep gaming. Once you break the cycle, you don't want to come back. That's their hypnotic glance on you. You don't need to do that level of Candy Crush. You know you don't. And whether or not that 99 cents for 5 more lives is worth it, it never is. They got you. And I think Grand Theft Arlen is an episode that you could update with very minimal touches and make it incredibly relevant today. And to see it be focused around Hank rather than, Bobby or Dale shows how easy it is to get swept up in video game addiction, into that escapism. And it's never done, aggressively. It's always done with an amount of respect, and I really appreciate that. I appreciate the care that they put into how they depicted it, because they knew they couldn't go too extreme with it or it would just be unbelievable, like, Ice-T stopping Gamergate because he's a gamer in an episode of SVU or something. They walked that line very delicately, because of course Hank would get addicted to a game about propane. And I don't know. It's one of the very few hits of the later seasons, and I'm kind of about it. Peggy's gone to pots. It's the return of the real Rusty Shackelford. It's so dumb. It's so dumb, but the fact that Peggy falls for another pyramid scheme, this time, admittedly, she got tricked by the Wasana songs, but still, come on, Pegster. You keep falling for these things. If I had a nickel for every time... I'm not doing that, because it's more than 2 nickels. It's like 6 nickels, which there's nothing funny about 30 cents. But, to have that story against Dale trying to avoid the real Rusty Shackelford because he did a real number on his very real credit, it's just, it's perfect. It's so nonsense, so chaotic. And again, later on in these seasons, they couldn't have these long season through lines, so they have these really, really strong one-off episodes. You could watch this episode between any season, and it still has that same satisfying, little adventure. I love it. I love this episode more than anything. It is a fantastic, dumb, turn your brain off, watch it with something else for like a little 2-episode binge before you, always go back to American Dad again, and just escape life for a minute and watch them try and fake their deaths to get away from their enemies. Sure, I don't think they'll come back next week or anything, but go off. Blood and sauce. I'm gonna be real with you here, gang. At the time of recording this one, I've actually seen the new season of the show, and I gotta admit, I kinda want this built on. This is an episode that showcases that Bobby loves cooking, especially barbecue, which sort of lines up with the new season. He works a charcoal grill. There you go. I kept coming back to this episode, and I always hoped it would be canonical, that Bill might actually get a win. And while I do love the return of his cousin Gilbert, I just... Bill as this barbecue pit boss, dropping all that Creole like his doctor in Louisiana. I really love that. And it sounded like Stephen Root was having an absolute blast as Bill. And it's just such a sweet episode that I would argue is kind of tarnished by the spice of Gilbert. It just yeah, sure, little pocket weenies, classic line, absolute banger line. But I just, if Bill could have but one thing, let it be a family sauce that pays his bills. Let it be a regular, him teaching Bobby how to barbecue and teaching him a real art. I mean, I love barbecue. I grew up in the Midwest, so barbecue is very near and dear to my heart. Grilling is near and dear to my heart. And just seeing this care, this love, it made my heart warm. It is one of the great facets of life, sharing a meal with someone, sharing a culture, trying new foods. My God. I love Blood and Sauce. It is one of my favorite episodes. I wish it had a better ending for Bill. I wish he got just that one extra thing. If nothing else. I mean, and he did have Bobby experimenting with new sauces, and it's such a wonderful scene. I really wish that's built on with the new seasons. Even just a little callback to it, because that seems to be when it really clicked for Bobby that he wanted to be a chef.
Everybody loves season 11. It's a season of a show.
Season 11. Man, I love barbecue. I think that's just the common, just out walking away from this season. I enjoy barbecue, and I've always wanted to be a pit boss. I think that would be great. Or pit master. Oh, I think one works casinos, the other works pigs. Anyway, there are so many of these episodes in season 11 that just strike a personal chord with me, and I think that's good enough.
Let us delve into season 12.
Trans-fascism. This was a very... it was a very difficult season to come up with another 5 episodes for. Season 12 wasn't the greatest, but it's also not... pound for pound, it might be the worst season. It's definitely down there. Trans-fascism is fine. It's a perfectly okay rerun episode to catch, some night. You know how it's gonna play out, and it's also kind of quaint in a way, especially with how we have food truck culture today and how it's exploded. I mean, just seeing this almost 20-year-old depiction at this point, it's cute. And trans fats being this big controversy, also a very 2000s thing. I can't tell you how many times trans fats were brought up in all kinds of other shows too. It was everywhere. And so it's just a weirdly nostalgic episode for me. Again, I wish Rooster was some kind of side character, a special actual guest character, instead of just Dave Herman doing Dave Herman voice number 4. And I kind of griped about this in Bob's Burgers. Dave Herman is a fantastic voice actor, don't get me wrong, but overusing him takes away from his charm. You will lose respect for the academic here. I don't dislike Brickleberry, and I quite enjoy the first couple seasons of Paradise PD, and a lot of that is from Dave Herman's, performance. He is a wonderful comedic actor, and he's great. In King of the Hill, my God, he's grating. And I needed an episode where we had a break from the Herman. He is a wonderful voice actor. I wish I could meet him one day. He seems like a wonderfully nice guy, but yeah. They overuse him to the nines, and I don't know if that's a budget thing or what. It's just give him a break. Let him voice fewer characters. Dreamweaver, and again, I gave Dave Herman a lot of flack. I did. He's actually great in this episode, and that is sort of my argument here. He is really, really good when a character just sort of sings for him. And the one-armed basket-weaving teacher who has seen some stuff, he's terrific. He is just so done with these tours, and he's just so done with Dale. And it's a good Dale episode. It shows that Dale has always been this weird kid, and he doesn't want, he does love his friends in his own awkward way. Very reminiscent of when he would eat bugs back in the competitive eating episode with Bill and, American rock icon Kid Rock. I guess rap icon. What music genre did Kid Rock to face? What is Bow to Automata? Kid Rock hate aside, I really kind of enjoy Dreamweaver. It's another really good rerun episode. It's good to just turn your brain off and watch. Nothing really gets resolved, and yet you could also say that Dale teaching people extermination is a skill that helps him pay the bills, and it fills in a plot hole if you want it to. If you don't, it's just a good we'll see you next week moment. And it works. It works on any level. The parts with Hank are believable. I can understand why he'd be frustrated with Dale, especially with everything he's had to do for him. But also, Dale is really, really bad, though. Like, he's just the worst. So, goes back and forth. Like, is he wrong to make fun of his friend a little bit? Yeah, that's not great, especially with someone like Dale. But also, he kind of deserved it, and Dale has done a lot worse to Hank in the past. But these seasons were not, this season especially was not meant to be, here is big pivotal moments that matter and will affect the canon going forward. These are, if you catch one this week and you catch one next week and you miss 3 more, you're not missing anything. And that's fine. I get it. But of that formula, this is one of the strongest episodes.
Pour some sugar on Khan.
I really don't know what it is about this episode that I love it so much. I think it's one of the few times that we see Khan be really vulnerable about something he loves, something he is arguably incredibly good at. And I've gotten flack for how I've talked about Khan in the past, but also, Toby Huss did do a great job with Khan. He performed him in a memorable way. I don't think anyone will disagree there. The new voice for Khan is a choice. We'll get into it later on, I promise. But this episode was a much needed Khan episode. It was a much needed passion of Khan episode. And you actually get to see Khan having conflicts with, his father-in-law and being popular, having that surge in popularity. And it doesn't even really go to his head. He's just happy to be recognized. And then he gets broken. And then the B story is amazing. Bobby and Peggy betting each other, and the winner has to get complimented? That's great. It is just so dumb and wholesome in the best way. It's absolutely something a mom and son have done in the past. Like, this entire episode could have been live action if it needed to be and been fine. It worked. It is a top to bottom success. It was a struggle to come up with 5 episodes, but there's at least a solid top 3 if nothing else.
The Men Who Knew Too Much.
It's so funny to me that 12 seasons in, we finally get a really good men-focused episode. And of course, the people she connects with are Dale's gun club. And I love that for her. I love the absurdity of this episode, and I love the jokes of it. It is a perfect episode in my eyes. I keep coming back to it. It's probably one of my favorite episodes of the later digital seasons. It is great to catch on any night. The delivery is great. Lauren Tom did a fantastic job as Min. Lauren Tom is a wonderful voice actor. I know I haven't talked too much about her. I talked about her some in the Futurama reviews, but she is great. And this gives her a chance to really bring Min to life. She does a great job with Connie, of course, but I don't know. She knew what she was doing with Min. She made a character, and she was able to bring her back fantastically in the new season as well. It's just, I love Dale's Gun Club. I love how it's just this group of idiots, and the scene where the guys with walkie-talkies surround the guys with guns, and the guys with the guns are putting them down is amazing. It's you know what? That's the charm of King of the Hill. They're just big goofs, and they're there to have a good time. It's such a fun episode.
Life, a Loser's Manual.
And then, of course, we have the season finale which, spoilers gang, I was a teenager in the 2000s, so you better believe I watched a good amount of Jackass and Viva La Bam. I was big into that punk skate culture. And so when I see special guest star Johnny Knoxville, I lock in. What I didn't understand was Johnny Knoxville is actually kind of a really good voice actor. Like, really solid, because he was in Business is Picking Up and that was fine, but this though, fantastic, utterly amazing. Like, Johnny Knoxville is an incredibly talented guy, and to have this sort of look at Peggy's brother, that I would believe this is Peggy's brother before I believe a rover runs through it Peggy's mom is Peggy's mom. It makes sense for Luann's dad to have been on the oil rig. And I don't know. I really like Lucky in this episode, how he's doing what he does out of a love for Luann and making sure that she doesn't get hurt. I don't love that Luann is treated like this Fabergé egg that can't, experience life in any capacity, but I also kind of understand. It's very tricky. I wish we had earlier season Luann dealing with this. I feel like it would have been a much different episode. But Johnny Knoxville is one of the best guest voices on the show, bar none. And I kind of want him to come back. He's been another Mike Judge project, so we're definitely due.
Johnny Knoxville. And there we have it, my top 5 episodes of season 12. One more to go. Woo! Yeah, this was rough. Oh man, talk about an odd season. It's a lot. I had to negotiate with myself to find 5 on here that I was like, yeah, I could defend these 5. These are a strong 5. You could tell that they were kind of burnt out, and you give them some grace because they made an American icon, but still not the greatest season.
We careen into season 13!
Serves me right for giving General George S. Patton the bathroom key. Hey, look, it's the last season that actually went out on a high note. I've talked about this season a lot, and I really enjoyed how there were so many actual conclusions in it if you were paying attention. And Serves Me Right is this wonderful conclusion to Cotton. Not only does Hank find some amount of closure, he finds it with his friends. His friends are the people he would have been in the trenches with. He spends so much time with them. And while he didn't get closure about Cotton or about how Cotton feels about him, he got closure that he would be okay. He's got Peggy, he's got Bobby, he's got his boys. And I think there's a very quiet dignity to this episode where Hank sort of realizes he's good enough. He's got a great team. He has built something incredible, and that's something he can walk away from, and his dad will never take from him. Like, he knows his dad was not a great guy, and he understands why he is how he is. It's just, I really enjoy this episode. And I also love Dale and Bill having a dude divorce. I thought that was great. That fork will look real nice with this knife. Give him the fork, though, Treef. That was great. That was absolutely wonderful. I loved the little argument in the alley. It's just, it's so good. I just, this whole episode sings. And it's so weird to me. It's from the last season.
Boah, my nose.
And then there's just more closure. Oh, look, Hank got a new nose, and he's ready to take down the rival team from when they were at state and he lost. He had that crippling injury, and now he's back. And I love it. I love that they get the whole gang back together. I love that Hank is terrified of hurting his new nose, and then he has to face, what if I get taken down again? What if I'm a humiliation again? It is a perfect conclusion to a story that has been going since season 1. It is a conclusion to the Torch Song Trilogy. It is a conclusion to every time we have seen Hank second guess himself, doubt himself, or be afraid of showboating. Like, this is closure for Hank's ambitions from when he was a kid. This is closure for Hank and his team. And they get it. They managed to beat them. They managed to turn it around. He is able to achieve what he wasn't able to achieve decades ago. It is a wonderful episode. I don't think it could be a series finale episode, but it is a wonderful last season episode. It is a great conclusion to that storyline. Not the whole story, that specific element of it. And I don't know, I hated this episode when I was a kid. I thought it was boring. I didn't understand it. And then when I was much older and I was marathoning the show, and as I was working on this review, I really started to appreciate it more and more. I appreciated all the subtle touches, all the extra attentions to detail you didn't have in the episodes surrounding it. This was something special. And it really did. It sold me. It sold me on the last season as a well thought out, if we're going out swinging, and that's what we got.
Trapped in My Space.
I'm a sucker for nostalgia. I'm a sucker for time capsule episodes. There is so much to love about Trapped in My Space. It is that a flash mob? Don't worry, Ted Danson gets it out of everybody. It's so accurate, and I've seen the new season. I appreciate that sometimes they call it what it is in the real world and they react to it accordingly, because it adds that extra layer of realness. It's not like, you gotta join my book, it's got all your social interactions on it. Like, no, this is MySpace. You know MySpace, you know the jokes we're making about MySpace. You know, the glittery intro messages, hard coding your own web page so that My Chemical Romance, Welcome to the Black Parade plays when you open it. Yeah, don't at me, I know. And just watching Trapped in MySpace, it's so specific. It is so iconic in that way. Like, who really cares about the rest of the episode? It's fine. The B story is great. I do enjoy the B story, but I keep coming back to it because, remember MySpace? Remember the social media master MySpace? When's the last time anyone opened MySpace? Come on.
To Sirloin with Love.
Ooh, people are getting those comments ready. I can feel it.
To Sirloin with Love is number 2. What is possibly at number 1? Oh, this isn't right at all.
To Sirloin with Love is a perfectly good episode. That middle bit is kind of hard to watch and doesn't really accomplish much. Front end, fantastic. Back end, terrific. Middle part, meh. I love the episode. It's a wonderful series conclusion. It is a great way to leave the characters. It is that last shot of Hank and Bobby feeding the entire neighborhood, it's really, and again, I'm glad Bobby is a chef. I think Bobby being a chef really makes sense because he grew up around people cooking for the neighborhood, sharing their passion of food, their culture. And so him being a fusion chef makes a lot of sense. And I really, really appreciate how, I don't want to say careful they were with this episode, but how precise they were. They never make the scenario they're in bigger than where they have to come home to. It is a meat recognition and inspection competition that takes them, 3 counties over, and then they're back for the last shot. They're not, in Dallas dealing with the meat organization that's pushing to get vegan meat banned or something like that. It is a very, very, very small plot because it's not about the plot. It's about Bobby and Hank sharing something. And while Hank encourages Bobby to never let the team down, he also is just trying to encourage his passion in meat. And you can really tell, unlike propane or football, this is something Bobby truly loves as well. The passion for meat, the passion for grilling, that is something timeless. And it's just this beautiful, a passing of the torch in a way. Just him having his own little grilling next to his old man for everyone he loves. It's the best way to conclude a series like King of the Hill, to really send home that true masculinity is serving your community. And that's such a wonderful message at the end of the day.
And number 1, what happens at the National Propane Gas Convention in Memphis stays at the National Propane Gas Convention in Memphis.
Ooh, you knew I had to do it to him, old top. I love this episode. This episode is one of my favorite episodes at all time. I would argue it is my favorite episode of all time. I think it is the perfect Buck episode. I think it's the perfect Hank and Buck episode. It is a beautiful conclusion to the Strickland Propane storyline. Hank gets his coat of many colors. It's gorgeous. I'm sorry, the Rainbow Flame Blazer, which is iconic. I know, the flames should be in a different order. That's fine. I don't care. The episode's great. Diedrich Bader's in it. Who doesn't love Diedrich Bader? And I really love that Diedrich Bader is in this, because Diedrich Bader was famously in Office Space, and he shows up like 4 or 5 times throughout the show. And almost every time he shows up, it's iconic. The doctor in Peggy's Fall was fine. It wasn't like his best role, but he was still great in it. And I could watch this episode for days, months even, and never really get tired of it. It hits every note it needs to. Hank drinking a Long Island iced tea? How did that go down? Like, it's baffling. It's good. It shows Buck is a flawed man, but at the end of the day, he does care about Hank. And this is a wonderful Peggy episode. Peggy stands by Hank. She is on Hank's side. She is defending Hank and doing everything in her power to get Hank the justice he deserves. Like, Buck is willing to play hardball for Hank. He is willing to go the extra mile for Hank because Peggy convinced him he needed to. Peggy was the one that put him in his place, and I love that. I love that Peggy was able to scare Buck into appreciating Hank and everything Hank has done for him. And this episode is it's just so good. It's great that Buck gets to meet his son and they're chaotic with each other. It's wonderful that Hank gets his rainbow flame. It is, if Sirloin with Love was not the series conclusion, this would have been a fine one. To Sirloin with Love is a beautiful one, but I think this episode just has a better through line throughout. The comedy is fantastic. The writing is terrific. The performances are at an all-time high. It is just a pound for pound better episode in my eyes.
Hee hee ho ho, everybody dance now. We got to the end, yeah, everybody dance, wow. And there we have it, my top 5 episodes of season 13. It's been an endeavor, but we got here. 5 episodes per season, 65 episodes to talk about. But there's a lot to love. There's a ton here, and season 13, as I've said before, makes the Hulu revival that much more difficult, much like the Futurama season 10 made the Hulu revival difficult, because it wraps a ton of stories and has a lot of great conclusions. It just, yeah, there's a lot to love here, and I don't really see anything coming in the next couple years that could ever compare.
And there we have it. That's my top 5 episodes of every season of King of the Hill. What are your top 5 episodes? Think I'm wrong on all of them? Let me know in the comments below. And if you like what you saw, consider liking, subscribing, and telling your friends. We're out here. If you want to know my top 5 of the entire pre-new season run, I guess, it would be this top 5 list. Number 5, Snow Job. Number 4, The Exterminator. Number 3, 9 Pretty Darn Angry Men. Number 2, Hanky Panky / High Anxiety. And number 1, What Happens at the National Propane Convention in Memphis Stays at the National Propane Convention in Memphis. I'm not gonna front. I love these episodes for a whole myriad of reasons, and these are the episodes I keep coming back to. These are the episodes I adore more than any other. They're so near and dear to me. And like I've had to grapple with figuring out which episodes I wanted in here. The Substitute Spanish Prisoner, one of my favorite episodes of all time. But is it in my top 5? I gotta say, Snow Job pushed it out. Like Sirloin with Love, a wonderful, wonderful series conclusion. But gotta admit, that middle part, kinda rough. And I genuinely hope your top 5 lists are different from mine. That's the magic and the wonder of King of the Hill. That is the power it has on people. The fact that we can all love different episodes and all be correct is a truly magical thing. King of the Hill was able to anchor itself in Americana. It is a modern-day Norman Rockwell. Realistically, how many shows from the 90s are still playing in reruns today? King of the Hill has outlived so many series, so many projects, because it is just that timeless, that evergreen, because it speaks to that heart of Americana, that just genuine camaraderie of neighbors, your desire to help your family and live a good life. King of the Hill is really something special. And, well, there is a new season out, and what does the old academic think of them coming back all these years later? Well, there's really only one way to find out, isn't there? Available right now, the Anime Academic Season 14 review right here on the channel. That's right, this was all a big hullabaloo to get you ready for the new season review. I just wanted to take this time and thank everyone so much for watching. And if you want to support the channel, consider joining our Patreon or membership programs today. $2 a month gets you your name on this fancy list. And my genuine, heartfelt thanks. It is an absolute wonder that anyone supports this channel, and I am so grateful for each and every single one of you. And I was going to talk about this before. I have come back to this project like 3, 4, 5 times, and I genuinely think this new season just suffers from so many losses in the original cast. It's not a matter of the voice actors can't do the voices anymore. It is a matter of it's just, how can you keep it going? And obviously, the recent horrible tragedy of Jonathan Joss is not lost. I mean, we also lost Chuck Mangione recently. Brittany Murphy, Tom Petty, of course, Johnny Hardwick. That loss does have an impact. And so I have to be as emphatic about this as possible. Please know that you are loved, you matter, you are not alone, and no matter what, things will get better. It is okay to not be okay. It is okay to not fight every single day. I'm proud of you if you just woke up this morning. And I really want to take a second and thank Tinkerhell for doing what they did. They went through each season of my King of the Hill reviews, and they reviewed the show themselves. They gave it different scores. They ranked their favorite episodes and gave personal anecdotes about their life and how King of the Hill influenced them. It helped give me a look into the people that enjoy my content, and it was wonderful seeing their thoughts on it. And I encourage you all, not necessarily on my video, but any video, share your thoughts about the series that impacted you. Share your thoughts about why you love the shows you do. Genuinely, if you think I'm completely wrong about some episodes, let me know. Share your passion. Be passionate about something. Passion is the spice of life, my babies. Get it? Bless the Hearts reference, Bless the Hearts, King of the Hill universe. It's all connected. Anyway, thank you all so much for watching. A rising tide lifts all ships, and I can feel one hell of a wave a-coming. Goodbye, everybody, and I'll see you all next time.